There are two more topics that we'll need to cover in our Java Crash course today before you can really get started on Project Zero. The first is, let's talk a little bit more about public static void main string braces args. Get a sense of what this all means. So actually, we know a lot about this already now. So what does public static mean? Well, that means we're declaring a static method. What about void? Well, this is a method that returns nothing. Main, that's the name of a method, and here is seemingly some parameter. Well, that seems a little funny. Like, we're not calling this function from Java, so what could this parameter possibly be? What is this? Well, hopefully you've seen command line arguments in the past, and so in Java, when you want to access the command line arguments, you're going to be using this string array. So here's an example. This class argsDemo will print out the 0th command line argument. How does it do that? Okay, what does it look like? Public static void main string braces args. Well, it just says system.out.println args0, prints out the 0th one. So what would that look like in action? Well, if I ran such a program, Java argsDemo hello some args, I expect to get hello. But let's try it live so we can convince ourselves that this is a real thing. Okay? argsDemo. And all we're going to do is print out the 0th entry of our args array. And so if we run argsDemo, we get error, index out of bounds exception. What's that mean? Oh, well, we didn't give any args. So here's an arg, another arg. And so an arg, being the 0th one, gets printed first. Okay. Well, why would that be useful? Well, in the old days, and even now, I mean, if you are a power user of utilities, you're aware that there exist programs like, say, FFmpeg or whatever else that you can give it all kinds. Oh, I don't have it on here. AVConv. So there's all these different options you can give it, right? AVConvH. This is not important. If you've never used this program, don't worry about it. But basically, this is a command line argument that tells AVConv what it should be doing. In this case, I just want help. But if I give it a different sequence of instructions, then it will do other things. Just so, we can use this to give controls to our program. Hello. And you will in Project Zero. So let's do a little exercise to make sure we understand what's going on, and also as a preview of the final topic of the day. So my goal is, I want to now create a program called argsSum that will print out the sum of the command line arguments, and we'll just assume they're numbers. And what we're going to find is that search engines are our friend in this process. So I'm going to mimic the process that I would like you to use when you're moving forward learning to program, because often, and especially once you're done with courses, you can't just go ask somebody in person, what do I do? I mean, sometimes you can. And sometimes you've just never seen the thing at all. And in fact, that will happen in this class. There'll be things that I don't explicitly teach that I expect you to go learn. Nothing so crazy. I mean, I'll cover all the big stuff. But a lot of times there's little details that it's just good to know how to find. It's good to be independent. So let's call this program argsSum. And so what we're going to do now is I'm going to say int n equals args.length. Okay? That is the length of our array, and we know that from homework 0. Now I'm going to create another variable called I, and then I'm going to say as long as I is less than n, we're going to add to a sum. Sum equals sum plus args I. And then finally, we will print out our sum. Okay. So let's try running this. Oops, wrong one. argsSum. So in this case, we get incompatible types. String cannot be converted to int. Okay. So what do you do now? Well, in the old days, you might have to go crack open a reference manual, but these days, it's much easier to be lazy and say convert string integer Java. Okay? That's a perfectly fine thing to do in this class. In fact, it's a really good idea. So we might look at whatever the top Google link is, but I find that Stack Overflow is often great because it gives examples. Okay? So how can I convert a string to an int in Java? My string contains only numbers, and I want to return the number it represents. Great Stack Overflow question, even with an example. So the response, since this is such a great question, in terms of well-statedness, someone's able to give an example, and we see int foo equals integer parseInt. Okay. Well, I'm just going to copy that into my code. Okay. I guess what I want to do is this is the string, so I'll do integer.parseInt that thing. And so I'm hoping this will work. We'll find out. And I'm not 100% certain it'll work, but oops, wrong program. Args sum. Okay, it seemed to compile. Now let's test it out. Okay, nope. Infinite loop. I forgot to increment I. Okay, arg sum. We run it and we get 10, 15, 25. Great, we did it. Okay, so we've written a program that will sum the command line arguments, and we use Stack Overflow to get us there. That is a great thing to know how to do.